Om Kiriya Babaji Namo. Om Kiriya Babaji Namo. Om Kiriya Babaji Namo. Today I am recording something which I wrote a few years ago about my personal experience with Babaji when I was very young. And this incident happened in my native place, and I didn't tell this incident quite for some time to anybody because it's very personal, and also I didn't understand many things that time what happened. But then when I said this finally after realizing my own purpose, and also when I had a chance to talk to one of the teachers who instructed me on Kriya Yoga, I told him my personal experience about Babaji, and he compelled me to write this in his journal. The teacher was Marshall Govindan, who is basically born and brought up in USA, in America, but he was involved in Babaji's Kriya Yoga for a long time under the guidance of Ramaya, and he has personal relationship, and he has personally met Babaji also in his own way. And he is right now at present from Canada, from his ashram, he is spreading Babaji's message all over the world. So that is how I came in contact with him and learned many of the Kriya Yoga techniques as taught by Babaji to Ramaya and Ramaya to Marshall Govindan. So when I informed him about my personal experience, he compelled me to write it in his journal, Kriya Yoga Journal. And today, for everybody's benefit, I am reading what I wrote in this video. So here is the article what I wrote about 10 years ago. How Babaji saved my life. This is in Kriya Yoga channel. Let me read this completely, what I wrote. Here how it goes. When I was 5 years old, a miraculous thing happened in my life, which I rarely told anybody. This is because I could not comprehend all that happened for a long time. Now I know with crystal clarity not only what happened, but also the purpose of the event. It's time to reveal this event or series of events for the benefit and the inspiration of all the people who believe in Babaji. On one summer vacation, as I often did, I visited my maternal grandparents' place. My maternal uncle, who was about 15 years old, took me to play close to a heap of river sand, which was ready to be used for building a new house. Many children were playing in the area, and one of the most enjoyed games was to jump from the top of an unfinished wall of the sand heap, unfinished wall to the sand heap directly below. As I was standing, preparing with anticipation for my jump in a line of waiting children, the child behind me pushed me hard. This unexpected push made me fall not onto the soft sand, but directly onto the hard sand where my forehead struck the force a sharp stone, right on the sharp stone. I was bleeding profusely, was struck unconscious, and looked dead. Not surprisingly, seeing this occur, the children, scared and panicked, ran away to their homes. My uncle, who was with me, also frightened by this accident, what happened in a split second, he ran to a neighbor for help. The news spread quickly to my mother, who had been enjoying a visit at her parents' home. The news shook her terribly. I was her only son and my father was away in the Indian Army. With the help of many people, I was carried to a local Unani doctor. Unani is a kind of medicine practiced by some Indians, which originated from the Middle East and was later transported to India by the Muslim rulers. At this time, I was not able to remember this incident for a long period of time. However, whenever I visited my maternal grandmother's place, there were always whisperings and gossip, and I would hear bits and pieces about the event. I was told the Unani doctor found that the sharp edge of the stone had chipped my frontal skull, and so minor surgery was necessary. After the surgery, the doctor said that he had done whatever he could, and the child would either wake up within 24 hours or he would not survive due to the seriousness of the damage to the front part of the brain. This news devastated my mother, and I was taken back to my grandparents' house, and my grief-stricken mother started praying intensely for my recovery. 24 hours passed without any trace of recovery, and most everybody in the house gave up the idea that I would wake up again. Therefore, plans for the burial of the child were being made in spite of the loud objections of my mother and a few others. A few years ago, in the same house, my mother's father, my mother's maternal grandmother, who was well respected and quite a lovable person, had died. That was my grandfather who died. Mother, who was his favorite child, has a very deep love and respect for him and was intensely praying to him to come and cure me and wake me up from the unconscious half-dead state. In the meantime, it was being said that a saint who looked like a teenager was passing nearby the village. My mother decided to seize this opportunity to ask the saint for help. The saint was near to the village on foot and passing at the nearby riverbed, which is one of the auspicious places of the Saiva Shiva worship of the Saivite people, as a Shiva worshipping people. The village had a huge Shiva temple nearby. The saint was called Babaji dearly by all the people who knew about his miraculous powers. Babaji was on his way to the auspicious Shiva temple, which happened to be close to my grandparents' house. Hearing the loud chantings, Om Kriya Babaji Namo Om, by his disciples around him, mother came rushing out of the house and went directly to Babaji. She reverently folded her hands towards Babaji and explained the whole incident to him in a hurry with tears in her eyes, and requested him to revive her only son. Looking at the grieving mother with tears rolling down her eyes profusely, Babaji said kindly, if that is the wishfulness of Thirumandurai, the name of the village, Thirumandurai is Shiva, then I'll obey his order. Later, he came into the house where the child was lying unconscious, touched his forehead for a few seconds, and then told the mother the child will recover soon by God's grace. Then he told her that he would visit the child once a year and take care of him, and that she should not worry about his son anymore. Everything would be all right. A few moments after he left, the child got up and asked for water since he was thirsty. The mother and all the relatives around his bedside were beside themselves with joy and rushed out to thank the Saint Babaji. All of them looked for him close to the Shiva temple where he was going. But unfortunately, nobody found him. Nobody in the temple had either seen Babaji or his group of disciples. The mother wanted her son to see the saint who gave him his life. Although she could not do that on that day, she remembered the promise of the saint that he would visit her son once a year and that he would take care of him. She was thanking the saint with a heart and soul for his grace granted for her son. Now, the only thing I could remember about the whole incident for a long time was that I was treated as a miracle child in the village whenever I go, when I visited my grandparents' place for holidays and vacations. I always thought I was given some special treatment, which I did not and do not deserve. Another thing I still remember is that in that house I felt very different, completely different. I felt very quiet within myself whenever I was there. I could not act and play as a child with other children in the same house. Even as a young boy, I felt a complete silence and stillness whenever I visited there. My cousins would physically have to drag me out of the house and force me to play with them. Another thing that happened after this incident was that I started doing well in school. Really quite suddenly, I became one of the smart and bright students of the class from being quite average. Teachers started pushing me in my schoolwork. Rather, teachers started prizing me in my schoolwork and everything. I did not know the whole incident for a long time. I began to remember through the bits and pieces of information I received about my childhood, from the relatives who witnessed the incident, and from my dreamlike remembrances, incomplete in detail of some strange things I did remember. A few years back, when I went to see my grandparents' place, my uncle's wife asked me to show her my forehead, and then looking at the scar, she inquired whether I remember how that happened. I said no without much attention. She described the whole incident to me from her viewpoint. This time I could easily relate to many things which had been coming to my mind, often as a dreamlike remembrances. I asked her whether she remembered the name of the saint. The only thing she remembered was that they called him Babaji, and he looked very young and handsome. People also told her that he is from Parangipettai, the name of Tamil Nadu in India. She also, in the state of Tamil Nadu in India rather. She also clearly remembered those loud chanting around the young saint, Om Kriya Babaji Namo. In those days, I knew nothing of Kriya Babaji. However, I was getting some understanding of the strange memories I had been having over the years. As I look back, the only thing I remember about the incident that day was that I was playing with all other children and I was pushed onto the sand. After that, all is as a vivid dream. I could remember people taking me to a doctor in a stretcher-like thing above their heads and loud carrying out for me, calling my name, etc. I was in turn telling them that I was all right and nothing had happened to me. But I noticed nobody would listen to me. Another thing I remember quite vividly is the doctor operating on my forehead and the severe pain. I remember that I could see everyone from the roof of that room. Myself lying on the operating bed as a slender child and the doctor and people around. I can also remember the doctor telling all the people around, go away, the child needs some fresh air. Then on the way back to my grandparents' house, from the doctor I remember my mother's crying and me trying to tell her, I am okay, why are you crying? Why are you worrying? Why are you weeping? One particular thing which often came to my mind was of myself standing on the rooftop of the house, that's my grandparents' house. I could easily see the aerial view of that place like a bird. I was also feeling that I was ready for some new journey. I could see a very bright but pleasant blue light stretching from the rooftop to the sky above. At that moment, I remember thinking with a heavy breath that I planned to accomplish so much. When I was standing there, I saw an old man standing close to the top of the staircase. He was asking me to come towards him and said that he wanted to show something to me. But I was telling him repeatedly that I could not come to him because I had to go somewhere else and was all ready for the journey. But the old man again insisted and keep on insisting, please come. You can start your journey after having a look at something. I'll show you. So I half-heartedly followed the old man. And the next thing I remember is an aerial view of the inside of my grandparents' house, and a big choke, and a cough, an intense feeling of thirst for water. I remember my mother who was sitting next to me. There was an oil lamp lit next to me. My mother jumped up in joy and immediately brought some water. She also told me that I did not eat for the past 2 days and so should take some food. But I told her that I had to go somewhere and I was going towards the staircase to climb up. My mother told me that I may go wherever I want to go next morning after a good dinner and sleep that night. Next day morning, everything had happened, felt like a dream. So this is what I wrote in that article, and even now I can vividly remember what happened that time. And with the Babaji's grace, I had an opportunity to read and share the story with all of you. Thank you.